hope all is well. Happy Monday. So, I am continuing on in my series of teaching your child to read. The steps that I'm going to go over today is just additional steps to what I've already told you guys in the first video. You kind of don't want to do too much at once, because if you're just now understanding what all of these concepts are and the words and the terminology, it can be overwhelming. So, and also overwhelming for your child. So you want to make sure that you're taking everything just a day at a time, a step at a time. And if you need to repeat something, if you need to go over something multiple times, don't feel bad, because it takes practice for the child to understand what you're talking about. And it's also going to take practice for you to get it into a daily habit. So what we discussed on the last video was introducing those letters, sounds, shapes to your child after you've gathered your patience. The second thing was the CV and VC blends, helping your child to put those sounds together now. So the AB, AB, and BA, BA, those little blends that you can continually put together. And it's not necessarily a word, but it's helping the child to push those sounds together to continue to form the word. After that, we spoke of CVC words, which is your cat, hat, dog, 10. Those consonant, vowel, consonant words, as your child is leveling up, progressing, and getting better with their blending and just fluency in general. Next, we discussed the fact that your child should be writing, practicing their handwriting, and continuing to look over those words, recalling words to you, reviewing those words, not just teaching them one day and then, oh, we're never going to go over that again, but helping them to look at their notes, which is basically teaching them some form of discipline as well, helping them to look over their notes, review their notes. Okay, we talked about these words last week. Let's go over them again to keep those words fresh in the child's mind. After that, we discussed manipulating and segmenting sounds, which is your deleting, adding, moving sounds in words. For example, we have a word like bin. We can delete the B and it becomes N. Or we can substitute the B for an F and it becomes fin. So teaching the child that all of these words can be manipulated to become something completely different. After we discussed that, we also went into your word families and helping the child to see the same ending on all of those CVC words. So today we are continuing to just finalize those steps and giving you the guide that you need to help your child, because that's what this is about. So bouncing off of that, and understanding that it's a foundation that you're building, which means it's going to be level after level after level until you truly see your child just picking up books and just reading through books cover to cover. That's the goal. Fluency, top notch. So the first thing I want to discuss today is just making sure that you reiterate, possibly on a daily basis, those short vowels, because as we continue to progress, you know that the English language has a lot of components, and vowels can be short, long, schwa, all types of things. So understanding and kind of helping the child keep in mind that we're talking about short vowels. We have a, e, a. Looking at the child as they're saying these vowels, because their mouth movement is very important, especially when they're saying those words fox, fax, fix. If they're not opening up their mouth and pronunciating, then everything is going to sound the same. And this is also helping them with their speech as well. You can say a short vowel and either have the child point to a picture, write a word, or just draw a picture that matches that sound. A short little saying I've used is apple, edge, like the edge of a table, I for itch, O for octopus, and U for up. Going over those little things like that has been helpful. Now, after we're going over those drills of short vowels, then we want to move into your rhyming words. Now, rhyming words and word families are basically the same thing, but you're introducing a different concept. So the child has to know what rhyming words are. So cat, hat, bat, sat. As they continue to read, those poems are going to come about, those words, those Dr. Seuss books, and they are going to have a ball with those rhyming words. So as long as they know that rhyming words are basically word families where those words end in the same sound and they have a connection and a pattern, that's basically all they need to know. I would, if you would like to, introduce those Dr. Seuss books, those little poems that you can find, and just help them with reading the material as well as repeating those rhyming words. After you have introduced that to them, you want to begin more writing practice. And there is a way for the child to connect the sounds to written words. And it's sound to word writing. So basically, it's just like a spelling test. However, you're not saying the word, you're saying the sound. So you have your child get their paper, their pencil, get their writing posture together, and then you can let them know that I'm going to give you 5 words or 10 words, whatever that child's pace is. They begin at number 1, and then you say the sounds to a word. So if the word was cat, you would say k-at. The child would write the letter that corresponds or relates to that sound, and when they're done writing, it should say cat. Now, disclaimer, if you are using words that begin or end with K or C, that child is most likely going to get those confused a little bit because K and C does have the same sound. However, those are mistakes that will be straightened out eventually. Now, what I would suggest is that after you have the child write these words, let's say you've already finished with all 5 of your words, the child has gotten the words correct. Now, I would have the child go back and read the words to you. Yes, they can write it, but do they understand what it says? And as they're reading the words to you, okay, well, put the word in a sentence now. Then you're helping them to understand what the word means if they don't know. If you gave them a word like pop, they read the word back to you. And then, all right, can you give me a sentence using the word pop? I can pop a bubble. This is going to help them to use their critical thinking skills and progress over time. Another form of sound to word writing practice could also look like you using those letter tiles or the magnetic letters to help the child build the words, maybe before or after they've written the words. What I see is that it's easier for them, especially being hands-on and knowing that a child is always, knowing that a child's mind is constantly active. Having some type of magnetic tiles or letter tiles in front of them can kind of help them to manipulate the pieces and see that these sounds can come together or be broken apart. So far, we have reviewing your short vowels, practicing those rhyming words, word families, introducing those poems, Dr. Seuss books, your sound to word writing or placing the magnetic letters or letter tiles together to form words. And now we're going to go into practicing your sight words. Those sight words are the words that we see constantly. And we're saying those high frequency like is, on, I, the, and. Those are the words that I say we would see multiple times within a day. The sooner you introduce that to the child, they'll really start to read, because you have to think about it. Most of the books that you have that's going to be phonics related are going to have and, is, on in a lot of the sentences, because they're just trying to connect the words at this point to help the child build their fluency. One way that you guys can practice these words would be flashcards. Flashcards helps the mind. And so it's a very good strategy to use. I would write maybe 10 basic high frequency words on some flashcards. And this could be a drill that you just kind of go over for 5 minutes a day. And it'll help the child to kind of have that reinforcement as they're reading. Now, practicing those sight words for however long you need to until the child understands them is important, because now after you have practiced your sight words and the child has gotten it pretty much down, you want to move into forming those simple sentences. So they need to know their sight words to form simple sentences. So now we have the words like I am big. Both I and am are sight words, so they should know these words by now, right? And the word big should be a little easy for them because they have been seeing this word constantly on a flashcard, or they have been writing it constantly in their notebook. Another sentence could be the cat is on the mat. And again, the, is, and on are all sight words. Cat and mat would be the only words that the child would have to read without memorization, and they're in a word family. So it should be really easy for them at this point. You want to give your child 3 to 5 words so that they are able to form sentences. So I would say just random words: big, run, dog, hit, the. And then after that, help them to create their own sentences. When they're done writing, tell them to read the sentence to you. Then you want to look at their notebook and see how they've written it. And then continue to go over their sentence and go ahead and correct those grammatical errors. We know that the first letter of that sentence is probably not going to be capitalized. And we know that they're probably not going to add a punctuation mark to the end of the sentence if you haven't already taught them that. So the thing is, as we help them and gently correct their errors, they'll get it over time. Another activity that you could do is create sentences and have them fill in the blanks. So you could say the blank is big and then give them 3 word choices to put inside of that blank to complete the sentence. Now, at this point, the child is writing their own sentences. They're going over those words daily or however many times you sit with the child a week. And they're continuing to build their fluency and they're understanding those words now. Now we can take it a step further and introduce those phonics books to them. Now, reading these phonics books will help your child gain confidence and also help them with their comprehension, which is basically just understanding what they're reading. Now, what you want to do is try to limit the amount of times you go before the child and say it for them. There will be times when you'll have to kind of give them time and you may have to help them sound it out, but we don't want to just give the child a few seconds and say, okay, well, I'm going to say it for you. Try not to do that. And if it becomes frustrating, all you have to do is limit the amount of pages you're reading. So have the child read the title and maybe page 1 and 2 the first day, maybe page 3 and 4 the second day, and so forth. You can find these phonics books or at least phonics material PDFs online. There are a lot of free resources where you can print out PDFs. You can go to your library. A lot of the times they'll have sales on their books. You can also ask the community if there are any retired teachers, whatever the case, that is willing to help you because you're homeschooling or you're tutoring or whatever the case. So these little books, I like them because they're very short. They give you a lot of illustration, but also kind of just introduces books to the child in general. Now, as you introduce the book or page to the child, the one thing you want to make sure that you point out is there is a title, because the title lets you know what you're going to be reading about or who you're going to read about. So you give this book to the child. Okay, what do you see? They're going to tell you what they see. Okay, can you read the title of the book to me? Then they'll begin to read. Now, mind you, there's a sight word. So this should come a little easier. After they read the title, then okay, can you open up to the first page? Some children may have to start off reading where their index finger is following their words, because at this point, they're probably looking all over the place and all the things are going on. So in order to just eliminate distractions, have them follow their index finger and stay on track and stop at the periods and punctuation marks. After the child opens the book, you want to go over anything that you need to before you start. And then we can go ahead and start on our first page, second page. They will look and say, I am Nat. After they read, you can start asking those comprehension questions. Who do you think Nat is? What is going on this page? Where are they? What are they doing? It's helping the child to kind of visualize what they're reading and also understand it to where it makes sense to them as they're reading. Now, again, you can go through the whole entire book. You can stop on page 1. It depends on the pace of the child. If you are stuck on the first 2 pages for 7 minutes, I would say stop for the day, because the child is probably getting a little frustrated and you probably are too. And if not, then I still would say take a break, because you don't want to do too much drilling, especially when you're introducing something very new. After you have begun to introduce these phonics books, and I mean, you're probably going to be doing that for a few weeks. There are a lot of phonics books that are on like a basic reading level. And if you don't have any books, can't find any books, don't want to go that route, you can continue to create your own sentences. You can create your own story, whatever it is that you would like to do just to give the child practice. And after that, we want to go into our spelling and our reading words, so that we can kind of up the ante just a little bit. We know that spelling strengthens reading. So as we are going through our reading practice and handwriting practice, we are spelling these words constantly. You can have the child read the word, spell it verbally, write it down, and then use it in a sentence. So read, spell it verbally, write it down, and then use it in a sentence. These are the steps that you can take when you are introducing these spelling words to the child. As you are helping them to use it in a sentence, you can have them tell you the sentence first to make sure it makes sense, and then they can write it down. And of course, with your help, they should be able to finish the entire sentence. But again, don't try to take the reins. Let them do what they can do first before you meddle. So we have went over a few steps, okay? Number 1, reviewing those short vowels, A, E, I, O, U, saying those short vowels, having your child point to something, draw something, write a word that matches the sound. Number 2, your rhyming words, understanding that they are basically word families, but you're introducing them in a different way, using the Dr. Seuss books or anything that has rhyming words in them to help them understand it. Number 3, your sound to word writing practice, where you are saying the sounds to the child, having them write the word, put it in a sentence, and also maybe using those letter tiles or magnetic tiles so that they can see the sounds coming together. Then you have practicing those high frequency sight words, I, is, on, in, the, and, making and creating those flashcards and helping them to practice and complete drills possibly throughout the week. After that, you are forming those simple sentences. I am big. The cat is on the mat. And after your sight words, this should be a little bit easier, possibly giving your child 3 to 5 words a day or a week to have them write these sentences. Then you're introducing those short vowel phonics books where they can kind of begin to work on their comprehension as well as their fluency. You're asking them questions as they read and kind of helping them to take the reins. And then you have reinforcing those spelling and reading words where you're having them read the word, spell it verbally, write it down, and then use it in a sentence. This is basically step 3 and 4 put together, where we are allowing them to read the word out loud and possibly say the sentence before they write it so that they understand what they're writing. And then you're making sure that you are working at their pace, because all children learn at a different pace. Now, one side note is it's very important to use those magnetic letters or those tiles for the hands-on learning, because it helps children remember the patterns and the sounds. Help them to build those CVC words by moving those tiles around, showing them the word families with the tiles, as well as continuing to reinforce that letter recognition. These are a lot of the ways where a lot of hands-on learners truly get the concept. And then lastly, final thoughts. Learning takes time. Be patient, but be encouraging as much as you possibly can. If your child is struggling to read, you can slow down and repeat activities. It is not a race. This is a marathon, and it's probably going to take some time to truly understand some things. But the part about it that's very important to note is you're teaching them foundations that they will never forget. Reading is fundamental. Let's remember that. We have to read in everything that we do. So they have to know how to read, and they will be great readers as long as you're taking that time to make sure they understand it. Make the reading fun. Use those strategies that I explained. Connect the reading to real life examples if you can. Just incorporate the child and what they like to do as much as possible, and then praise their progress. As you're seeing them move and do different things and show you different strategies and complete their assignments, help build their confidence and give them motivation, because it's only going to help them to want to do better and to want to learn. The last thing you want is to try and teach a child that is checked out. Make it as fun, but also as stern and disciplined as possible, because the child is learning a lot of concepts. They're not just learning to read, they're learning self-discipline, they're learning how to think critically, they're learning comprehension. It's levels, but it's also an in-depth process. So with that being said, I hope that this video of the additional steps has helped you in some way, shape, or form. And I honestly hope and pray that you guys are either using these steps or are helping someone else that you know to use these steps. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please do not hesitate to comment below. Thank you and have a great week.